Hey folks, thanks for joining me today. Really appreciate you spending your time with us here in these virtual settings where we learn how to try and recreate the experience that we're all so used to having and that we all love so much in our cafes. My name's Joshua. I am the Northwest Outreach Specialist for Backdoor from Bronson Coffee Roasters and Dancing Goats Coffee Bars. And you might know us from Olympia or Atlanta. Either way, you're all welcome here and everyone in between, right? So today, what we want to do, what I would like to do, is dive a little deeper into a subject that you might have heard about before. And this has to do with filters. So you have probably heard, if you've seen one of these videos before that demoed French press like this, how we talk about the difference, one of the key differences in the French press methodology is that it has a metal filter, right? So a metal filter produces a different cup of coffee than a paper filter. So I want to talk a little bit about metal filters and paper filters because they don't just exist for French press versus other methods. They can also exist for some of the pour-over methods that you might see us demonstrating as well. And so I just want to talk a little bit about that. So this is a little bit of a brew demo, but it's also just a broader educational look at what filtering does. That whole, we talk a lot about coffee being really pretty easy with lots of difficult details. So we have ground coffee, we add hot water for a certain amount of time, and then we have to separate the grounds from the water. And that's what filtration is. So let's take a look at some of these. Before I do anything else, I want to remind you, if you're watching right now, and I noted this in the top on the title page, we do have a coupon code for you to use at any point during this show or after you're done watching. If you go to the website and use that code that's right there, we'll get you 10% off your entire purchase. And that's just a thank you to the folks who tune in and watch us regularly, and also share these by all means. Please continue sharing these, introducing your friends to what you love about coffee, and hopefully to what we love about coffee, so we can all share that together. It's just a little thank you to you. It's 10% off, and the code is Watch and Learn 10. You type that in, and I'll show you when we're done here, kind of where it goes, just to make sure everybody knows. So I want to take a look at what we're going to be doing today. So you notice I have two of everything here, right? I have two water kettles. I have two decanting jars. I have two volumes of coffee, slightly different grinds. And then I have two types of filter. I have a metal filter and I have a paper filter, but you'll see they're the same approximate shape. Now you might recognize these. This is a standard gold filter, and it is a metal filter. And I don't know that you can see just how fine the mesh is. However, even as fine as that is, it's going to be fundamentally different when we get down to the filtration process, and we'll see why in just a minute. So, as you know, if you've watched us before, coffee brewing depends on a lot of particular little things in order to get the right extraction out of our coffee. And so what does that mean? Well, we have a grind setting, which we think is ideal for the amount of time that the coffee is going to be in contact with the water. In this case, since we're using these two different methods, I actually changed the grind setting slightly. For the paper filtration, I kept it as I usually would, which is a relatively, it's a finer grind, but it's slightly coarse, right? Because I want to try and get into about the 2.5 minute time for for the water to pass through the coffee. However, with the gold filter, because there's less resistance in that filter of the water moving through the coffee, it means if it's too coarse, it will pass through too quickly. And so I did just tighten up the grind a little bit for the gold filter method. So we're going to do the standard method first. So as you may know, we start any paper filtration with wetting the filter. With these Melitas, see this fold here? I'm going to show you this. So you can go ahead and fold that over. You can fold that bottom too. Let me put this right in. It just makes it fit a little nicer. You can kind of see how the fold lines up against the side there. It makes it fit just a little bit nicer. And then I'm going to just off camera here wet my filter. All right. So let's get this so we can see it a little bit. No, that's not good. I'm gonna move it over here. I adjusted the camera slightly before we started. So again, I'm using my standard grind in this. Turn my scale on. I'll go ahead and add my coffee. I always like to double check the weight a second time. We're 20 grams, and I'm going to put in approximately, well, not approximately, exactly, as long as the scale's correct, 300 grams of water for this. Remember to tare, and then we always start with just enough water to kind of bloom the coffee. You'll see there's very little passing through here, and that's about 44 grams of water. So you can see it beginning to kind of bubble up. Some of those bubbles releasing, that one there popping a little bit, releasing gas. And of course, I forgot to start my timer, so that's okay. We'll just do that now. Okay, that's probably about 30 seconds, and then I'll start adding my water. Just slightly, gently from the center, outwards. So about halfway point, which is 144 grams of water. And just slowly add water with a real controlled drip here. A few spots there. Continue until I get to 300. I'll stop. And at this point, you might have seen me do this before when I do this pourover method with the kind of conical shaped drippers. They just do a little swirl or shake. What that does is it kind of pulls any of the coffee. If you can probably kind of see a little bit of the motion of the action of the at the top here, the fats, those lipids that are kind of floating on top of the water, right? They're hydrophobic. They don't come into solution with the water, right? They float there. You can see them kind of pulling to the sides as the water level goes down. And so the goal of doing that little swirl there is to try and capture as much of that coffee and keep it into the brew bed as the water passes down through there. And it looks like we're just going to be at a little over 2 minutes and 30 seconds for this. And again, coming in at about 280 grams total for the brew. So the main goal of talking about the difference between these two types of filters is to talk about the resulting coffee that we're going to get. So here we have a nice, freshly ground and freshly brewed filter coffee using a paper filter. And we're going to do the same coffee, which is again our Colombia Las Brisas. Only we're going to use the paper or the gold filter now. So again, I have actually made a slightly finer grind setting for this to try and control that time, the amount of time that the water is in contact with the coffee. And we're gonna start the same way with just putting just enough in, about double the amount. So I have started with 20 grams of coffee, so I'm gonna put in 40 grams of water. Oops, right over there, not saturated. this one. So we're at 30 seconds now. So I'm gonna do a little more controlled with this, because I want to try and again slow down the passing of the water through the coffee in order to have it be saturated with water for the right amount of time. I don't want it to pass through too soon. Without that paper filter there, it's going to move a little bit faster through the mesh. So if I keep it down off the walls a little bit more than I would with a paper filter, that will kind of help me. But that means I have to be a little more active and do a little more agitation with the pour. Now, most folks aren't probably going to use a metal filter in this way for a pour over. They're more often associated with with your automatic brewer that you have at home that uses a cone filter. But they are popular. You might see that you might have gotten one a while back. And one of the great things about the metal filter, of course, is that it's reusable. A little bit hard to clean, but not that hard, and there's no waste, right? So definitely, from an environmental perspective, it's a nice option. And we're going to see that we can create a good cup of coffee as long as we follow some of the fundamentals we talk about in these demos, right? And that's 300 right there. And I'm at 1 minute and 41 seconds for that pass. Again, trying to target it at 2 minutes and 30 seconds for the total pass through of the coffee. So we're at 2 minutes here. Looks like we're getting pretty close. I'll do a little bit of that swirl. There we are. Okay, so we're about to get to the part of this which is really kind of the key learning, which is that we can control with our grind and our pouring method the amount of time that the coffee's in saturation, which is going to produce a good even extraction of the coffee. But I do want to point out here a few things which will be noticeable once we're finished here. And we're at 2 minutes and 36 seconds, a little long. So that's actually, that's good. I mean, usually if we're not careful with these gold filters, the coffee will pass right through and will under extract. And we'll get a kind of a sour cup of coffee. I do want to let that sit just for a little bit longer. So, as we look at these, I don't know if I can show you, it's going to show up here, but you might see that there's a bit of a difference in the way these came out of the dripper. And trying to get the right light behind it, there is a density to this gold cup one here. And also, as we watch, I don't know that I don't know you can see it, but you can see a light foam forming on this one here, right? I don't know if you can really, you can see it. What it is it's those fats which have passed through the metal filter. I'm going to switch to just the main camera and see if maybe that's easier for us all to see, because I would like you to see this. So you see that there's a kind of a light zone right here. What that is, and you can start to see it building on the edge as well. What that is, that lighter area right there, are some of the fats that have passed through that gold filter. Now, usually some of those fats and those non-water solubles would be trapped by a paper filter, but with the metal filter, they move through. So what does that mean to us? Well, what that means is that this cup of coffee made with the metal filter is going to have, similar to a French press, that bigger, larger mouthfeel. Whereas the one made with paper filtration, where the paper filter actually wicks away some of those fattier elements and some of the non-water solubles, that's going to have a little bit lighter feel on the palate. Often folks will talk about there being a difference between acidity and body. And of course, when we talk about acidity in coffee, we don't mean the actual pH balance. We're talking about a sensual experience on our palate. You know, we're saying that the coffee, when the acidity of the coffee is its brightness, its liveliness in our mouth, the crispness, right? And the body is kind of more of the way it rests on our palate and the way it kind of coats our palate. So you can probably see that when we brew coffee with a metal filter, without being able to strain away some of those heavier fats, that might make it appear as though the coffee has less acidity. That's due to the brew method. When we do it with a paper filter, it might make the coffee appear that it has more acidity, brighter on the palate. And again, it's not that it has more or less, it's just the way it appears on the palate because of the brew method that we've used. So, for some folks, they want that big coating cup of coffee that is like really full and where the body is more present, that wake up and go coffee. And so that's probably going to be one where you would want to be using a metal filter in a French press or maybe in your drip machine. If someone wants a crisper and cleaner with the acidity more pronounced, maybe then you're using a paper filter. Either way, you got to start with good coffee. And so I hope that's why you came here today, because you love good coffee and we love sharing information with you and sharing what we love about our coffee. So please go to our website, and I will really quick, we'll do a super quick run through here so you can see. So here we are on our website, and you can go to our coffees. And today I was featuring the run down through here. Boy, look at all these coffees. Oh boy, there's some. I should have done the Volcan. Okay, I'll do the Volcan next time. Here's a Columbia right there, and I choose it, and then when you go ahead and you choose what you'd like to get, we'll say a 12 ounce, and you add it to the cart, you go down to your cart here, right? Did you choose it? Oh, you go up to our cart here, there it is, and make sure to put in that code. You put the code right here. You put that code in Watch and Learn, then that will make sure that you get 10% off in that purchase. And similarly, if you jump on and want to try a Melita brewer, make sure to get some filters as well. If you get the Melita brewer, you can still get, and you can use that code. That's great, as well as you get 25% off of Dancing Goats Blend if you want to try Dancing Goats Blend in your Melita when you start doing pour-overs. Thank you so much again for visiting us today. Really appreciate your time. I love doing these for you. Make sure to tune in tomorrow at 9 a.m. Ben and I are going to be doing something which I'm super intimidated about, and I'll show you right now. Oh boy, here it is. So, let me give a shot of this here. Can you see that? This is a siphon pot, and look at it. Oh my god, it's a balanced siphon pot. I don't even know what to do with myself with this. I'll be honest with you. I like to put myself off as a super coffee expert. I know a bit about coffee. I know a lot of smarter people who know more. Ben is one of them, and we're going to be on Instagram tomorrow, and he's going to coach me through using this. I'm really nervous, but that's okay, because we're all able to step out into out of our comfort zones right now, right? So if you've never tried a Melita pour-over before, please jump on the site, grab one. You get 10% off when you use the code WatchAndLearn10, and that also will include a coffee discount for you as well. We have lots of great coffees. If you have any questions, make sure to jump into the comments here. And also, if you share this today, we're putting names into a hat for people to win some coffee, a gift from me for you taking the time to not only learn something, hopefully, but also share it with someone you care about so they can learn something too. Thanks again for joining us. It's really a pleasure. We'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. And then Brendan's show, Coffee Talk, as well this week. And we'll make sure to get notices out to all of our pages so you know about that coming up.